Cut my music, cut my music. Breaking news, CBS Sports. Dennis Dodd, the Big 12 Conference is considering up to $1 billion in private equity. Holy smokes. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this college football rebel outpost channel. Help us keep the lights on. Hit that $sign. Make a comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome into the studio. One and all. Everybody is welcome. Come on in to the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid, especially today, especially Big 12 fans. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. Breaking news. I'm sorry, I do not have time to go and say thank you for everybody individually for coming on in at the beginning of the show. I hope you understand. Let's get to the breaking news. CBS Sports, 20 minutes ago. We will get to your phone calls. We will get to your super chats. Eventually, we'll get to your comments in the chat room. But first, Dennis Dodd, Big 12 is considering private equity investment of up to $1 billion. $1 billion for as much as 20% of the conference. Holy smokes. Wow. 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 One on the table is a possible cash infusion of $800 million to $1 billion from Luxembourg-based CVC Capital Partners. Hold on for a moment. Hold on. When this broke, I was in the studio. I was on the phone with somebody. Hold on. We do have some more information that we can report at Peek Around the Corner once we get through the article. Once we get through this article, we've got other information I have been given the okay to go ahead with. The Big 12 members are considering a first of its kind private equity investment to ensure the league's long-term financial and competitive security, multiple sources tell CBS Sports. On the table is a possible cash infusion of $800 million to $1 billion from Luxembourg-based CVC Capital Partners in exchange for a 15 to 20% stake in the league, those sources said. A portion of the money would go directly to the 16 conference members, and the partnership would give the conference access to CVC's investment services and clients. Again, and we said this a couple of live shows ago here at Peek Around the Corner. There is this debate, right? Why go to a private equity firm? Why don't you just get a loan from the bank? And I know a lot of people are against private equity. I understand. I'm just bringing this up once again because it's here in the article. You get the connections that these big private capital firms have. The conference would get access to CVC's investment services and clients. You can get better deals coming back to you. This is what we've been being told here at Peek Around the Corner. So we reported to you. It's not just the money. It's the connections. It's other deals you can make. Very complicated business. CVC is a global private equity giant that manages over $200 billion in investments worldwide, according to its website. The firm made a presentation to the league at the recent Big 12 spring meetings in Dallas. While one source described the talks as pretty serious, many league presidents need further convincing. Persons who spoke with CBS Sports prefer to remain anonymous due to the sensitive nature of the discussions. We have been told here at Peek Around the Corner, there is at least, we have been told, this was about 4 minutes before we came on live, there's at least 3 league presidents who need more convincing. And we'll keep it at that for now. No league has ever been this close to a private equity investment of this kind. Big 12 teams are currently earning $31.7 million each with Fox and ESPN in a media rights deal that ends in 2031. Add in the cash infusion from private equity, and the two revenue streams would combine to move the Big 12 much closer to the Big 10 media rights deal, according to a person with intimate knowledge of the proposal. The Big 10 leads all conferences, with schools set to earn approximately $75 million per year after it signed a new media rights agreement with Fox, CBS, and NBC. Should the Big 12, now get a load of this. Get a load of this. There's a lot of stuff here. There is a lot of stuff to marinate over, to discuss on this live show. Should the Big 12 and the CVC come to an agreement, it is not clear how soon a deal could be completed or when that money would start rolling into the conference. The CVS, this is the money shot, one of the many money shots of the article. PATC money shot of the article. The CVC investment would likely require the Big 12 to stay together long term. That might require some sort of assurance for CVC that a new grant of rights would be signed in 2031. The investment would certainly be a significant motivating factor to stay together, but with realignment, anything can always change quickly. Now, before we go on, well, let's just get through the article first. There's a lot to discuss here. Big breaking news. PATC covering it. The discussion is to the point that 3 sources told CBS Sports a small working group of the 3 Big 12 presidents have started digging down on the proposal. Sources said Commissioner Brett Yormark had a prior relationship with CVC. Yormark would not comment when reached by CBS Sports. One of the motivating factors for CVC is the considerable upside in the Big 12's value in media rights, according to sources who saw the presentation. The Big 12's current rights deal is worth $2.3 billion total. The league is currently 4th in average annual value for its schools among the Power 4 behind the Big 10, the SEC, and the ACC. Now, CVC, one of the motivating factors is the considerable upside in the Big 12's value in media rights. A doubling of the Big 12 media rights would put the total value at the league at approximately $5 billion in its next negotiation. A 100% increase in value was deemed as reasonable by a media industry source contacted by CBS Sports. Media rights revenues for all FBS conferences have increased steadily in each of the recent negotiations. All Division I schools are searching for an additional revenue streams after last month's House versus NCAA settlement that is in the process of being presented to a district court judge for final approval. Revenue sharing with its players are now a reality for the first time. We know all about that. Typically, private equity firms such as CVC invest for long term in companies with a growth profile. They make their money when their investment grows. They sell their stake. The industry term is called exiting the investment. If we do well, they do well, said a person within the Big 12 who is familiar with the talks. Florida State Athletic Director Mike Alford said he wasn't surprised a private equity firm was getting involved with the conference. And that takes me back to the latest update in the Holy Smokes Theater, and we'll get to that later in this live show. As Columbus within the PATC community figured out the location of a certain meeting. You don't know the date. You're going to find out the motivation. You're not going to find out who was in that meeting, not quite yet. We've got a lot to get to in this live show. So buckle up, brace for impact, PATC community. Florida State Athletic Director Mike Alford said he wasn't surprised a private equity firm was getting involved with the conference. The future is, we're looking at it, private equity. Alford told CBS Sports, I think it will start at the conference level first. If it doesn't start with us first, it's no secret. Florida State has partnered with private equity firm 6th Street. That is true. And the man in a fine-looking suit that walked down the aisle in the Holy Smokes Theater, who dropped off the suitcase with a key in which a receipt fell out of his pocket, that gentleman was from 6th Street. We'll get into this more later on in the show. Again, we've got so much to get to. It's no secret Florida State has partnered with private equity firm 6th Street, another leading global equity firm, to maximize its value as it continues an attempt to exit the ACC. For 1 month, beginning July 1st, the Big 12 will operate as a 12-team league with the loss. Well, we know all that. Those inside the Big 12 continue to be impressed by Yormark's aggressive approach. He's throwing punches. One Big 12 source said, the dude is bold. He's all about it. He's bullish. Among CVC Sports portfolio is the Women's Tennis Association, some cricket franchise in the Indian Premier League, La Liga, the Spain-based soccer giant, some football professional governing body that runs soccer leagues in France, Premiership Rugby, England's top league, the Six Nations Rugby United Rugby Championship, the top league in Ireland, Scotland, in Wales. Its U.S. investments include Petco. CVS was founded in 1981. Rob Lucas is the company's CEO and managing partner who has been with the company since 1996. Private equity has been considered an inevitability for college sports as schools seek additional revenue streams. Redbird Capital founder Jerry Cardinale raised eyebrows in December when he said college football was vastly undervalued. Redbird has a stake in giant AC Milan, as well as the Penguins and the Red Sox, Major League Baseball, in a new in-season basketball tournament, the details of which were first reported by CBS Sports. CBS Sports is all over this. Great reporting by Dennis Dodd is backed by an offshoot of Redbird Capital, Redbird International Media Investments. Redbird IMI is a majority funded by the United Arab Emirates and is headed by former CEN CEO Jeff Zucker. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Let's get to the beginning of this article. We've got a lot to discuss. We're just going to hit the high points, and then I'm going to tell you what I believe. You tell me what you're thinking. The Big 12 is considering private equity investment for up to $1 billion for as much as 20% of the conference. Big 12 members are considering a first-of-its-kind private equity investment. On the table is a cash infusion of $800 million to $1 billion in exchange for 15 to 20% stake in the league. $800 million to $1 billion for 15% to 20% stake in the league. A portion of the money would go directly to the 16 conference members. And the partnership would give conference access to CVC's investment services and clients. The talks are pretty serious. Many league presidents need further convincing. We have been told in a very short time there's at least 3 presidents that have not bought in. Big 12 teams, okay. And then this is last part, and then we're going to get to our comments here. The CVC investment would likely require the Big 12 to stay together long term. That might require some sort of assurance for CVS that a new grant of rights would be signed in 2031. The investment would certainly be a significant motivating factor to stay together, but with realignment, anything can always change quickly. Okay. All right. So, here's the deal. CVS, private equity firm, sees a big upside in the Big 12. Right? They believe they're going to get their money back. $800 million to $1 billion investment for 15 to 20% stake in the conference. They believe there's a lot of upside in the Big 12's value. Now, we have reported to you guys over and over again that there are people in this college football space, and especially outside of it, that believe that there is certain value in college sports that's going to skyrocket. Of course, football is the most important. It's going to be considered the most important. Football is what drives the bus. But as we've been reporting to you, that there is a belief that the value in basketball is going to skyrocket. That they're going to be able to squeeze way more juice out of that turnip than they've had in the past. And the Big 12's basketball brands, they believe, there are people out there who believe that value is going to shoot up. You've heard Brett Yormark talk about it. I'm telling you, it's not just Brett Yormark. Now, they might be right, they might be wrong, or it might be somewhere in between right and wrong. I'm reporting to you what they believe to be the case. I'm not smart enough to figure it all out. You all probably are. You let me know. But I'm reporting to you the chatter behind the curtain for months is that the value of this college basketball is going to finally take a big leap up. The money, okay. So if you believe that, then you believe the Big 12 is going to skyrocket in value. This is another reason. Look, Greg Sankey believes it as well. He could be wrong. Brett Yormark could be wrong. Everybody could be wrong. I'm just telling you what they believe in. Greg Sankey believes it as well. It's one of the reasons. It's not the only reason. It's probably not even the biggest reason why the SEC is targeting North Carolina and Virginia. It also has to do with demographics. It also has to do with the population growth. A whole bunch of people are going to go to college in 2030, 2031. The SEC universities want those students to be more attractive to all those other current SEC universities. It's the money that can be spent in Carolina, Virginia. Is a whole bunch of different reasons. But when it comes to athletics, everybody is betting that basketball is going to take a shot upward. This private equity firm, CVC, I believe, also believes, everybody seems to believe that. Now, we'll circle back to the Big 12. Yes, private equity firm, Arne God would expect a return. And it says in the article, 15 to 20% of the conference. And then they're going to sell it off. Maybe they sell it back to the Big 12. 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. I don't know. Or to somebody else. But in the meantime, the Big 12, while they might, again, I am not arguing for or against, but I know most people will probably be arguing against this deal. But this type of deal would make sure that the Big 12 can absolutely, 100%, almost positively make sure that they get ahead and stay ahead of the ACC. I don't know how the ACC can't make this type of deal. Right? I mean, how could the ACC make this type of deal? Now, many of you might be saying, well, that's a good thing. Okay. I respect that opinion. I might hold the same opinion as you. I do not know. But if the Big 12 is making this type of deal, that cash is coming into those schools, and then suddenly for the next 5 or 6 years, the Big 12 is going to have more money to spend on recruiting, direct payments to the student athletes. The Big 12 is going to make sure that they are that third conference, and then that they're not going to get left behind. In return, those Big 12 schools are going to have to give up the 15 to 20% of the conference. And this is a very important part of the story. They're going to have to the Big 12 schools, if they agree to do this, it's not just the 15 to 20% of the conference goes to the private equity firm. But it also has to do with they're going to have to sign a longer term grant of rights, in which it's going to cost a whole lot of money for a Big 12 university to pay out of that grant of rights. Right? The grant of rights has not been deemed null and void yet in the Florida State case or in Clemson's case when it comes to the ACC grant of rights. There probably has to be some type of settlement, right? Well, if the private equity firm CVC is going to get involved, they're going to want that ironclad as much as possible. They're going to want it in writing, how much it's going to take for a university to get out. In other words, if the Big 12 signs this deal, these schools, they're not getting out. In other words, let's be blunt. In other words, if Kansas signs on the dotted line, they're in the Big 12 past the 2030-31. This is beyond 2030-31 that the CVC is going to need. So we're looking at the Big 12. Kansas will not be able to leave the Big 12 unless they pay a heavy cost. So, for all practical purposes, if this deal gets done, if it does become reality, Kansas is going to be passing up any potentiality of becoming the 21st, 22nd, 23rd team, 24th team of the Big Ten anytime soon. Kansas will be passing up on the potentiality of being the 20th, the 21st team of the SEC if that should ever happen. Same with Utah. If Utah signs this deal, if all these schools are going to have to sign on, for all practical purposes, their ability, as slim as it is right now, for many of you believe there's no chance for those schools. But the chance of those schools jumping to the P2, the Big Ten and the SEC would now be, for all practical purposes, eliminated. West Virginia's going to have to sign that contract. All the Texas schools in the Big 12 are going to have to sign that contract. So think about that as well. Now, this also could be Ryan Willie. Thank you for the super chat. The Big Ten needs to get serious about basketball. Well, they're just getting outplayed. They're getting outplayed. No question about it. I think there are some institutions that really, basketball is serious for them. Purdue, they just can't get over the hump to win a national championship. Purdue, we know Indiana, basketball is very important in Indiana. We know it's very important in Maryland, but they're not winning those national championships. Now, this is what I want to get to next. And then we're going to open up the phone calls. Sean says if this gets done, the ACC is cooked. Think about it in this way. I know a lot of people are going to be against this deal. But wouldn't this type of deal ensure that the Big 12 for the next, I don't know how many years, probably enough years, they're going to have such an advantage over the ACC. I know the article talked about how this is going to close the gap between the Big 12 and the Big 12 with the Big 10 and the SEC when it comes to the financial gap for the next 6 years. No question about it. No question about it. Cash infusion, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, BYU, Utah, West Virginia, UCF, Iowa State, go through them all. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, all of them. All of them are going to get this massive cash infusion, and they're going to be using a lot of it when it comes to recruiting, making and some other stuff, but recruiting, making sure that they're in the game, that they can do the $20 to $30 million needed year. They're going to be in the game. They're going to be competing at the highest level. And this is going to separate themselves from the ACC dramatically. And then the ACC at some point is going to implode. The Big 12 is going to possibly be in position to pick up some of the pieces. The Big 12, Brett Yormark, since he signed that media rights deal on October 30th, 2022, signed, sealed, and delivered Brett Yormark. That happened August 30th, 2022. Brett Yormark has been eyeing the possibility of being that third conference to securing the future of all the institutions in the Big 12. Wouldn't this be the haymaker? I know 15 and 20% of the conference, longer term gore. I get it. A lot of good reasons. I get it. A lot of people are going to be against this, and they're going to be arguing a very good case. But think about it from the ACC's point of view. Think about it from Clemson. Think about it from Florida State. Now the Texas Tech Red Raiders, for the next 5 to 6 years, are going to have more cash than the Seminoles, than the Tigers, Kansas, West Virginia, Cincinnati. Big 12 schools are not going to be, the boosters will not have to empty out all their pockets. Florida State's going to have to make, and they will make, and I'm going to get to that story next. I make a deal with private equity just to match what these other Big 12 schools are doing. But there's no way the ACC can make a conference-wide private equity deal. Can they? And if they do, it can't be in the same numbers that the Big 12's doing. Or am I missing something? Is there a chance? Do you expect the ACC to do a massive $1 billion equity deal with a company out there? With Clemson and Florida State suing the conference suing Clemson and Florida State. You got North Carolina. I don't know how. I don't think I would be shocked if the ACC could pull something like this off. Now, before we get to your, let me get to your super chats, and then we're going to provide you the update in the Holy Smokes Theater. I know a lot of you missed the show. Missed the live show, a couple live shows ago. So we're going to have to just back up. I'm going to give you guys just the basics, and then we're going to push the story just a little bit further. And when we do, consider the backdrop of what has been just reported about the Big 12. There's a lot of cloak and dagger stuff going on, and we're providing you a little bit of what is happening. Ryan Thomas, you can bet your cheese those private equity investors will have Wall Street and Park Avenue attorneys all over that gore. Those folks play for keeps, and it will be solid. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Thomas. Thank you for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on. I agree with you. I think for all practical purposes, if the Big 12 makes this deal, those Big 12 schools are not going anywhere. And if they do, it's going to cost them more than $572 million. It's going to cost them more than $700 million to get out of the deal. I think we can all agree to that. Thank you, Ryan Thomas. John Teal, this deal could land Miami, Pittsburgh, Louisville, +1. Thank you, John Teal, for your continued generosity to this channel. I think you bring up a very good point. Ryan Willie, I see that Fickle rescued a recruit from Minnesota. Petaway is staying in the land of cheese. Congratulations, Mr. Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. Petaway, who committed to Wisconsin, then committed to Minnesota, is back to being committed back to Wisconsin. I think he's going to be a good player. We shall see. We shall see. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Thank you for that super chat. I do appreciate it. Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane, your mark, raising cash to bring in the Masons, Rand Pauls of the world. Thank you for the super chat, Rock and Rant. Thank you so very much. Rock and Rant is going to be tough to beat when we do the second clash of the Titans in the PATC community when it comes to our trivia game. We'll be doing a second one here at some point this summer. Okay. Mike Shields. Greg, this could impact what the SEC does and could force them to try to expand with UNC and Kansas first. with the understanding that Kansas won't be available until 2031. I would bet against it. I would bet against it. Again, Kansas is not assured of anything. Nobody is. Not even Florida State at this point. Although Florida State knows that the Big Ten is interested. Kansas, I believe, there's reason to believe that they will be in play when and if the SEC spans through 20. In play, that doesn't mean they're going to get a spot. It just means that Kansas's value is going up. It is. We reported this to you. I got raked over the coals. I get it. That's what I'm here for. When you're doing a peek around the corner show, you're going to get it from all sides. That is okay. I'm just telling you. Everybody is betting on basketball value is going up. And I get all the arguments. I get them all. I understand the good, solid, logical, historical arguments on why it's not going to go up. I get it. But they're all betting that it will. I don't know. Their algorithms, their data, it all is pointing to it's going to go up. Instead of football being 80 and basketball being 20, maybe it's more like 75-25 or 70-30. I don't know. But in this world that we're going to be witnessing for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, with basketball value going up, that means the Big 12 value is going to go up. That means their media rights value is probably going to go up a little bit higher than expected. That means Kansas value is going to go up. That means North Carolina's value is going to go up. It's just UConn's value is going to go up. The Big East value is going to go up. Oh, Big East basketball. Just there's some media deal going on between NBC, Fox. What was the other one? TNT? I don't know. I don't remember what it was. It was just reported yesterday. I'm telling you, everybody in college athletics, everybody outside of college athletics believes basketball value is going to shoot up. And when I reported that to you a couple months ago, but now I think people are, you understand? CVC is betting big on the Big 12. They think they're going to get their money back, and these schools think they're going to be able to give their money back, and more because they're going to improve the value of the conference by having this cash infusion. Everybody think it's going to be a win-win. We shall see. Now, let me get to the live show. We're going to get to your comments. We're going to get to your phone calls. We're going to get to your super chats. We're going to get to everything. A couple live shows ago, we reported to you in the Holy Smokes Theater here at Peek Around the Corner. For those who don't know, we talk about stories in this theater in a way that's hopefully entertaining, definitely informative, to give you the peek around the corner in a way that doesn't hurt my sources where I can harvest the field over and over and over again. We did the Big 12 story, we nailed that sucker, and we did it in the Holy Smokes Theater in a way that you all can enjoy the hot bubble of action. You all were here for that. And now we're doing the ACC drama. We've been doing a lot of stuff. Pac-2 and Friends. In the ACC drama, a couple live shows ago, it was Tuesday. I'm sorry. It was Tuesday. We told you that there was a gentleman that came into the Holy Smokes Theater wearing the finest suit, walks down the aisle and drops off a suitcase on the edge of the stage and set a key on that suitcase. When he put his hand into his pocket and took out the key to put on the suitcase, a receipt fell out of his pocket. The receipt fell onto the floor, but he did not realize that. The guy in the suit walked back up 40 rows through the doors, through the four-way, past the popcorn stand, went out of the auditorium. Our investigative reporter, Jerry, picked up the receipt. And we reported to you all that on the receipt, on the first line, most of the receipt was watered out. The printing was taken away. On the first line, there was O, the letter O. Then skip a couple lines. Then the next line was the number 4, 5 right next to each other with a space with the letter E. Then the next line down was the capital C and a small H. And then a few lines down was crispy green bean fries. This was the information that we were able to provide. This is what we were told what happened. Again, we're going to push this story a little bit further right now, in lieu of this private equity story coming out in the Big 12. Some of you got it. Some of you got part of it, the story. The receipt, what it led to. It did not lead to an airport. It did not lead to TGIF, thank God it's Friday restaurants. It led to the city of Chicago. It led to a restaurant in Chicago. It led to a restaurant that serves crispy green bean fries. Allegedly. This is all allegedly. That guy from Minnesota, we do not know anything here at Peek Around the Corner. Allegedly. The name of the restaurant was O'Brien's. Somebody ordered the green bean fries? Possibly. Something happened in that restaurant. Something happened with a private equity firm. Something happened with 6th Street. And some university on that stage picked up the suitcase. Now, that is as far as we can possibly go with that story. We're just going to let it lie there. We're going to let it sit. We talked about this on Tuesday. We're bringing you an update on Thursday. We're pushing the envelope as far as we can possibly push it. So for those who were here on our Tuesday live show, that is the next part of the story. O'Brien's was the answer. A Jordan H in the chat room on Tuesday got it right. Jordan H. And then Tracy FSU figured it out after the live show was over, as she put comments in the comment section. So congratulations to Jordan H. Congratulations to Tracy FSU. And thanks for everybody else who tried to figure out the clues on the receipt. Something happened on a certain day in Chicago, next to the river, 6th Street, Florida State, allegedly. And that's as far as we're going to go today. But as you can see by what Michael Alford is talking about, if he said, what did he say in this article today? Whoops, sorry. Typically, private equity firms, again, CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd. Typically, private equity firms such as CVC invest for the long term in companies with a growth profile. They make their money when their investment grows and they sell their stake. The industry term called exiting the investment. If we do well, they do well, said a person within the Big 12 is familiar with the talks. Florida State Athletic Director Mike Alford said he wasn't surprised a private equity firm was getting involved with the conference. The future is, we're looking at it, private equity. Alford told CBS Sports, I think it will start at the conference level first if it doesn't start with us first. It's no secret Florida State has partnered with a private equity firm, Sixth Street, another leading global equity firm, to maximize its value as it continues to an attempt to exit the ACC. We're going to get to your phone calls right now. The phone lines are open. What do you think? Should the Big 12 pull the trigger? $800 million to $1 billion for 15 to 20% of a stake. Should they sign on the dotted line to extend the grant of rights? And remember this, if the Big 12 doesn't do it, somebody's going to do it. I believe the American Athletic Conference is going to do it. The AAC conference.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. What do you think, sir? BYU, are they going to sign on the dotted line when it comes to something like this? Utah, Oklahoma State, TCU. Holy smokes, the floor is yours.
I think all of them will, and I'll tell you why. First of all, like I said before in a previous call, this is kind of like this is the fourth down play. This is like the fourth and 5 on your own 30 in the fourth quarter. Where Phillips is punting, Yormark is going for it because his team is down 10 and they need to get in the game, and this is what they're trying to do to close the gap. I'll tell you why folks will sign, because there's absolutely no guarantee for any Big 12 school to have a landing spot in the Big 10 or the SEC. There's no guarantee. I know TCU fans and West Virginia fans, there's no guarantee. First of all, neither of you are ending up in the Big 10, and neither of you are ending up in the SEC, period. Deal with it. Live with it. And Kansas has to deal with, and Utah has to face reality, and same with Colorado, that if the Big 10 decides to go all in the Southeast with Clemson and others, they might take a Georgia Tech, a Miami. They might take if they get a Notre Dame, they might have to take a Stanford or a Cal later on. They might do something to, have the Big 10 Academic Alliance sort of do some consortium poaching of the IPL, the Ivy League Plus library system. So, there's no guarantee spot for those guys in the Big 10. And the SEC, geographically, I don't see them going west of the state of Texas. So, you don't really have a chance. And if you're Kansas, you have to face the reality that the SEC, because of political reasons and other reasons, may have to take 4 ACC schools. So there's absolutely zero guarantee for any of these schools. And this is either, this is their shot. They can get some guaranteed money from private equity. And if it's sufficient amount of money for them to close the gap and to get into the game, you take it. You go, it's a bet either way. But, I think it's a bigger bet to sit there and hold out thinking you're going to get some invite to the SEC or Big 10 when everything has to fall perfectly in place for you to do so. And I'm speaking to you, Kansas.
We've got breaking news.
Go ahead.
We've got breaking news. I apologize to Mr. Ryan Thomas, a friend of
Oh,
mine,
I know it is.
a long time great caller, great person in the community. He's taken immaculate spot. He's being disrespected. However, Ross Dellinger, breaking news. In a presentation to league leaders in May, the Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark proposed selling the naming rights to the conference in what would be one of the most lucrative and unique sponsorship deals in college sports history. Sources tell Yahoo Sports. Holy smokes. The naming rights. Here's another. Hold on. Sorry, Ryan Thomas. I do apologize.
No, that's fine.
The naming rights proposal would incorporate a sponsor in a way that alters the name Big 12. Sources tell Yahoo Sports, similar to the trend in bowls, Outback Bowl. Nothing finalized. Any deal must gain majority support from the Big 12 presidents. There is an article broken. We'll get to it. Ryan Thomas, go ahead and finish it up. I do apologize, sir. A lot of stuff going on.
I mean that right there. I mean that's more money. I mean he's doing everything he's doing everything he can to get that conference as much money as possible. And I think that's a risk worth signing on and staying on. I mean this is an example. I mean if you're the Big 12, if you want to close that gap, you got to find non-traditional ways to do it. And the second point I want to make too, Greg, is if the ACC implodes completely, I want to point out something, and I was chatting around with Jamie and Immaculate and JD about this, but I think the Big East may be that vehicle for the private schools in the ACC. And what I mean by that is I could see, and I want you to also note back in December that Oregon State and Washington State joined the WCC as affiliate members. And I think what you could possibly see is for the Cals, the Stanfords, the Washington States, the Oregon States, the San Diego States maybe, the SMUs, and the various ACC schools left behind, I could see a possibility of them parking all their Olympic sports in either the Big East or the WCC, depending on which geography works best for them, and having a football-only membership conference. I think the fact that you see NBC and TNT getting involved in NBC's connections with Notre Dame and Notre Dame's history and connections with the Big East, I think that there might be something lining up there, Greg. That I think that might be a distinct possibility. Now, anything can happen, but I think that I would not be surprised if we see some unique situations like the Big 12 selling its name for sponsorship and also doing private equity. You might see the leftovers, based on sort of what Washington State and Oregon State has seen. You might see some of the ACC leftovers or the private or the public Ivies or whatnot joining local conferences in Olympic sports and having a football-only conference that's kind of anchored by an agreement with Notre Dame to schedule games. So I would not rule any of that out, folks. I think that could be the vehicle. But anyway, I'm going to let other people get calls.
Got it.
Keep in mind, in Congress today, nothing's going to be passed today, but the legislation on the employee status of athletes is going to be brought up into committee hearings to be marked up. There will be amendments. Nothing's going to get passed today, but and there might be some. It's a starting point, but the fact that it's starting is an important piece of the puzzle. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day. Keep it the good guys, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks for the call, man. Mr. Ryan Thomas, I've taken the phone off the hook for the moment. We've got more breaking news. Ross Dellinger's sources, Big 12 exploring naming rights deal for the conference worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This broke 4 minutes ago. The Big 12 Conference is exploring a naming rights partnership that may be one of the most lucrative and unique sponsorship deals in college athletic history. In meetings with league administrators 2 weeks ago in Dallas, the Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark formally introduced a concept to sell the naming rights of the conference in a deal that would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, multiple sources tell Yahoo Sports. Under the proposal, the conference name would undergo a significant alteration, prominently incorporating a sponsor's name in the title, a common trend among bowl games, such as Capital One Orange Bowl and the ReliaQuest Bowl, formerly the Outback Bowl. No major conference in recent college sports history has sold the exclusive rights to its name. Several corporations are expected to be involved in the process for the naming rights. Well, if you've got more than one corporation involved in the process, that is good news for the Big 12. A final determination has not been made, and any agreement must gain the necessary support from the Big 12 presidents and chancellors. A Big 12 spokesperson declined to comment when reached Thursday. The concept is a months-long endeavor spearheaded by Yormark, a former New York entertainment and talent executive who's completing his second year as conference commissioner. In a news conference on May 31st, Yormark told reporters that he has been vetting out big ideas with his presidents and athletic directors that would grow league revenue, but declined to reveal specifics. I take it as a personal goal to make sure that I can best resource our schools for this next chapter, Yormark said. A possible name and rights deal isn't the only big idea. The Big 12, the league, is exploring private equity agreements to generate millions in immediate funds for its member schools, multiple sources confirmed to Yahoo Sports. Yormark has spoken in support of private equity in the past, including just last month. Private equity has been out there in the news and people are thinking about it, he said. In some respects, private equity is a validation of where this industry is going and the growth, and I don't look at that as a bad thing. The naming rights deal to the conference, expected to generate multiple millions per school annually, comes at a time when college athletic departments are seeking untapped revenue streams ahead of the implementation of a new revenue sharing model. Starting in the fall of 2025, Power Conference schools are permitted to share millions with their athletes, potentially as $22 million in cap compensation model. That is part of the consolidation of 3 antitrust cases. Holy smokes. Some schools are examining private equity or private capital plans as well, and many are hoping eventually to display corporate sponsorship patches on their jerseys for their athletes. Naming rights is another lucrative way to grow revenue at a time when expenses are soaring. At a time when expenses are soaring, ballooning coaching salaries, direct athlete compensation, etc. The revenue gap has even spooked some into attempting to exit their own conference. Florida State and Clemson have filed lawsuits with the intent of eventually to leave the ACC. And this is the PATC money shot of this article. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, this just broke. The Big 12, however, seems to have more stability, benefiting from its league's leaders' aggressive play to poach 4 Pac-12 schools. Though with diminished distributions to current Big 12 members, the expansion positioned the conference for a more professionalized future. So, the goofballs out there, I'm going to be blunt, the idiots, the complete idiots out there who continue to pound the drums that just because the Big 12 expansion has diminished the school payouts just a little bit, that somehow that was a terrible move by the Big 12, that they did it because they were panicked. The buffoonery of some people who still argue that is just blows anybody's sensible, logical mind. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. The Big 12 is in position, if they decide to do it, for a more professionalized future. Pac-12 is gone. The ACC is struggling. People are still confused out there. Still utterly confused. Well, they're not confused. They didn't have a clue from the beginning of what was truly going on. We're going to open up the phone lines once again. Naming rights to the conference. What should the naming? What more than one corporation is interested in the Big 12 naming rights? What do you want those naming rights to become? How much money do you think it's going to happen? Do you think the Big 12 schools should go for this private equity deal? $800 million to $1 billion for 15 to 20% of their conference. I know this is all kind of crazy, but this is the new world that we're living in.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, Mr. Hot Guy, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
Just here chatting with you on my first cup of coffee. This is some pretty big news to come right away.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Yes.
Speaking of which, I just saw Amanda Kristovich tweeted that she's at the session in the House Education Committee to listen in about the discussion and debate over the bill for college athlete employment status. So if anyone's interested in that, which you should be, watch for something from her today on that.
Got it. Thank you.
It'll probably be where it comes from first, because she's always there live, reporting live. So
yeah.
But in terms of the Big 12 stuff, here's my angle, and this might be a little bit different than what some might want to talk about or expect. But now I'm kind of interested. It looks like Yormark went out to 2 writers this morning to kind of get word out. I mean, maybe this came from 2 different sources, but I tend to believe this is probably Yormark twice over.
Yeah. And Pete Thamel has a story up on the Big 12 as well. So.
Oof. Yeah, he was on the phones early this morning. Then.
Yep. Yeah.
Really kind of makes me wonder why. And it's not a bad thing. Could be a good thing, but what's his angle? Who's he trying to affect by putting this out publicly?
Maybe a couple Big 12 presidents.
Maybe Big 12 presidents,
yeah.
Maybe some others in other conferences saying, hey, look, the Big 12's got a lot going on over here that maybe you didn't realize. Because otherwise, this is a lot of stuff that you're dealing with internally. Like those Big 12 presidents, you could tell them all about this in person. So I think towards them, this would be more towards influencers of those presidents to say, hey, we like this. Or maybe some persons in charge or influencing other schools that are not in the Big 12. But yeah, because a lot of this, none of this is done deals. They're not like announcements for done deals. It's saying, hey, we're looking to do this. So he's trying to let somebody know that. So I'm thinking it's either influencers of Big 12 presidents or some entities that are not in the Big 12 that maybe he would like to. I mean, we just saw him not long ago say the Big 12 is open for business like never before. And he real quick jumped in and said, I don't mean realignment, but, I mean, we know that's part of it. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't know what you think about that, and maybe some others will jump in and have something to say about that. But it seems to me like he's trying to reach folks that maybe aren't just his Big 12 presidents with this.
Well, and what is the reaction? And I'm sure they know this was going on, but what do you think the Big Ten and the SEC's reaction is to this? Do they go and sell their name to a corporation?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think they're going to do any of the private, like the actual equity. You know, they're talking about 20% stake in the Big 12. I don't see the Big Ten or SEC going that far at this point. But the Dellinger article about naming rights, oh, yeah. As long as it doesn't have equity involved.
Yeah.
Because then that's where it really takes it to another level. Because at some point in time, they're going to cash out. And they want that value when they cash out of whatever 10% of the total value is. They want it to be a lot more than what it is now. So, you know, I don't know if this is one where they're taking cuts throughout the whole thing, or if this is just meant so that way they buy in now and say in 10 years they sell back out for a lot higher number, and so it's just a one time where they make a big chunk of money off of it, or if they're taking dividends out. I don't know, but I don't see the Big Ten and the SEC going that far. That kind of shows this is your mark saying we're going to go a step above and beyond to do what we can to kind of close the gap. Could be wrong about that. Maybe the Big Ten and SEC will, but I think that might be the line of difference where your marker might be willing to go that far and they might not. And so that might be why you put that out, just to say, hey, look, we're serious. We're going to do everything we can to help close that gap as much as possible. So he'd have to do something that they wouldn't be willing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah. So that's it, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing what other people have to say in this. I just wanted to jump in and you know, I had to follow up lead up batter Ryan. So
got it. All right. Appreciate it.
All right.
Great
Have
call.
a good one.
Thank you, sir. Great call. The Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, Ford ACC, found on road dead. I think that's what Ryan Willie thinks the naming rights should be, possibly for the ACC. Thank you so much.
Oh, my God.
Thank you so much for your super chat, Ryan Willie.
Call from
Hidden Hawaiian.
I'm sorry, Hawaii? Is that your name? Hawaii?
Hey, what's up, Greg? It's Hidden Hawaiian.
Oh, Hidden Hawaii. Thanks for calling again, sir. I appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Yeah, brother. I think I called like a few months ago, man.
Yes.
Yeah, I love your show, man.
Beautiful.
Hey, I just wanted like a quick comment on the private equity thing. I've been on this for a while, man. Like, I look at it from an athlete perspective. You know, I've been in a few X Games events and stuff, so I work on that spectrum.
Yeah.
But they've been talking about this with professional sports forever. Like right now, the model, this is what a lot of people don't understand. Right now, the media market, TV market, is not very stable, right? So they're looking for that third-party entity, and what everyone is starting to buy into is like private equity. So all these private equity firms are looking at taking major stakes in a bunch of professionalism sports models. They've done it with the X Games. Like ESPN sold off a large portion. You could look it up.
Yep.
They've done it with all these leagues. There's even a bunch of pro sports teams now that are not even owned fully anymore by ownership. Look at the Dallas Mavericks, for example. People like Mark Cuban are smart. They know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He's a billionaire. He sold off to private equity firm, and they have a large majority of ownership now. And this is what's going on across the sports landscape.
It's happening.
I just
like
looked up
2/3 of the NBA franchises.
Exactly. I just looked up a number. It's like 240 million or something of private equity money that's been poured into professional sports in North America alone.
Yeah.
So what the Big 12 is doing is, and let's be honest here, Brett Yormark throughout his career has not been a stranger to private equity. He literally was portioned a huge reason that NASCAR had their deals. Because I know a ton of people that work in NASCAR. I have tons of friends that are racers, guys that work in pit crews and stuff. They make so much money from private equity. It's not even based on ticket sales or anything else anymore. And it's all due to advertisement money. So what the Big 12 is trying to do, and we see it, and this is why I think they're going to sign off on it, because what he's going to pitch to them is that, look, this old model of relying on media deals is not the future anymore. The Big Ten, all these leagues have capped out on it. And once they sign off on the NBA deal and some of these other deals, it's going to be dry for quite a while. So you have to be innovative. And this is why they're going to do sponsorship deals with jerseys on fields. It sucks, but it's just the reality. So he's trying to get into the forefront of what's going to happen. And what's going to happen is once he leads the charge, like we saw with the G League and the NBA, that's what's going to happen with the Big 12 name. We already heard him hinting at changing the Big 12 name. So now that we know that's going to happen, he's going to easily make it something like, whatever meme name you want it to be. It's going to seem stupid, but it's not going to be stupid when the presidents see that they're pulling in just as much as the Big Ten. They're going to look at it and say, hey, man, I'm willing to sign off 20% to get 60 million plus whatever the number is in revenue, potentially even 100 million if you're doing the deals properly. So I just wanted to let that out because I think a lot of people are too focused on this old model of TV revenue, and that's not the model anymore, not even streaming anymore. But that will be a portion, but it really is about private equity and endorsement deals, sponsorships. That's the whole future of where we see the money coming in. Yeah, Greg, I really enjoy your show, man. I know I don't call in a lot, but yeah, man, I just wanted to give you my take. Yeah. And brother, love what you do.
A lot of people agree with you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Call again.
Have a good one. Stay blessed. Yeah, bro.
You got it. All right. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The first time Hidden Hawaiian called in, he talked about private equity. It's here. We've had a lot of live shows on it. It's here. It's happening. It's going on. Again, and then, the article, Dennis Dodd's article, and, there's also this, the conference is going to be able to take advantage, if it all works out, be able to take advantage of the relationship that these private equities have with other clients. We reported that to you a while ago. This is another reason why they rather get into bed with a private equity firm, all their connections, all their clients, they can get deals. Like a corporation might have a private equity deal with the CVC, and then a part of the way that this client can pay off whatever they have with CVC, now they can go and offer the Kansas Jayhawks a big old logo and give them millions and millions of dollars.
Call from. To accept, press 1.
I did not get the name. Hello. Call back. Call back. Don't be afraid to be a legend with your phone calls. Do not be afraid to be a legend. The architect. The best brands or the biggest brands, Big Ten, the SEC, what are those leagues worth to private equity? I don't know. Hello? Hello? Uh-oh. Something going on with their phone lines. Hello? Something might be happening with their phone lines. Things were going just a little bit too smooth. Please, someone else give me a call, and we'll see. Maybe I should, you know what? I'm going to reboot this back up here. Make sure there's nothing wrong with the phone lines. Okay. I redid everything. Let's see if that works. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Give us a call. So we got possible naming rights for the conference. We got private equity, huge private equity deal between, it's not official yet, but between, according to reports this morning, between $800 million to $1 billion for 15 to 20% stake of the conference. What does $1 billion? What is that?
Call from
Mona Vision.
Moan Vision is in the house. Mr. Buckeye, what do you think? What is going on? Big breaking news this morning.
Yeah, it's a dual-edged knife for the Big 12 today. They not only, if they take this deal, they add stability and they cause massive instability in the ACC.
Yes, I agree with that.
So, I mean, I know people don't like this, but this is probably the future of college athletics right here.
Yeah.
The Big 12 is not going to be the only one doing stuff like this. The Big 10 and the SEC will follow suit. They're not going to let the Big 12 come up and outpace them.
Yeah. I also think, this is really bad for the ACC. I mean, this is really bad. I don't know. Look, let's be blunt. Mr. Buckeye, let's be blunt. Florida State, Clemson were looking at a future in which they were going to be behind the Buckeyes, Michigan, Alabama, when it comes to resources, right? To be able to pay their student athletes, to be able to recruit, for all these things, right? And, Rutgers was going to be behind a whole bunch of other schools in the Big Ten and the SEC. But now Florida State and Clemson are looking at a future let's just focus on the next 6 years, right? If this Big 12, if this all happens, Florida State and Clemson are going to be looking at a future where they're behind everybody in the power conferences, right? Because there's no way a private equity firm is going to make the same type of deal with the ACC, unless I'm missing something. So I think that I would, if I was Florida State and Clemson, I know their fan base is going to yell at me, man, I'd be like, what do you want, ACC? Get me the hell out of here, right?
Yeah, I think they have to have been doing that already, Greg.
Yeah.
I think today, if this deal goes through with private equity at 20% for $1 billion, it's no longer, they may be forced to leave before anything's determined on the grant of rights.
Yes.
That might be a deal breaker where they just have to say, hey, we're leaving. Regardless of, if you're not going to give us a number, we're leaving. So, regardless of what any judge comes up with, they might just say, hey, we're out. And they might not be the only two now. This puts North Carolina in a predicament. Especially with North Carolina State. Will the Wolfpack backpack hold together, or Does the Board of Governors realize that, North Carolina could be missing the boat? I mean, you could either both miss the boat or one can miss the boat.
Yeah. It's and even the naming rights parts of it, even the naming right, give a new name to the Big 12 versus the ACC. Because of the instability of the ACC, they're not going to get the same deal as the Big 12.
No.
Right? I mean,
No.
they're just not. It's not reality. I know there's a bigger population, there's a lot of great schools, good fan bases, but no company is going to be offering the same thing to the ACC as the Big 12, in my opinion. I would be shocked. Now,
Yeah, it'd be like sponsoring the Titanic after it hit the iceberg.
Yeah. Now, $800 million. If it's $800 million, now the article said the great majority of that, or I don't remember how it was phrased, but a large portion of it's going to be given to the schools. Well, let's say it said between $800 and $1 billion. But let's just say it's $800 million being given to the schools. That is $50 million for each school. Okay? For this one-time shot. Who knows what's going to happen in the future. $50 million. Naming rights is going to be in the hundreds of million dollars. Throw another $10 million to each school. $60 million. That is $10 million per school for each of the next 6 years. That is going to make it so those schools can do this $22 million, whatever it is, right?
Right.
It secures those schools to be able to say, okay, we're on the same footing, at least, when it comes to this settlement, when it comes to this new world of a salary cap. We're on the same footing as your Purdue, your Michigan, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Alabama, Rutgers, the whole lot. Those 34 schools in the SEC and the Big 10, the Big 12 are going to be on the same financial footing when it comes to that salary cap. I think that's what they're looking at, right?
Yeah, it has to be, but I think if this goes through, Yormark might be the commissioner of commissioners. To be able to solidify his own conference and put it on a level with equal footing with the Big Ten and SEC, and in the same stroke, basically cut the throat of the ACC.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the important part of it. Yep.
Yeah, it basically forces schools to make a decision. It might not have been so easy for Louisville and Virginia Tech and, some of these other schools to make a decision. But, now they might be looking at it like, oh, hell, we got to get out. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's
sorry to interrupt you. We got a little bit of breaking news here.
Of course.
Calvin Sampson, the Houston's men's basketball coach, on this whole thing about equity and everything. We can't let the SEC and the Big Ten get too far ahead of us. We have to find a way to stay competitive. Houston's men's basketball coach Calvin Sampson on other conferences finding new sources of revenue. So I think there is, obviously he's supporting this. Now, Mo and Vision, we've been reporting here at Peek Around the Corner. I'm sure you have as well at Big 12 Mafia. There is this belief, and I don't know if it's going to be right. I don't know if it's going to be wrong, but there is belief outside and inside of this college football world that the basketball value is going to shoot upward in the next 5 or 6 years. Yormark believes it. CVC believes it. They believe the Big 12 value is going to shoot upward. Greg Sankey believes it. It's one of the multiple reasons why Sankey is targeting, when they become available, North Carolina, probably Virginia. What do you think about all that? We got Houston coach saying, yeah, we need this money. We need to be able to, I'm putting words into his mouth, but Houston needs to have that revenue to make sure they keep getting those top high school recruits coming out of college. They don't want the Big Ten and the SEC to have advantage in the basketball world like they have in the football world. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's exactly the same solution that, you're going to get on par with all your sports.
Yeah.
It's not just football, it's basketball. For some of those schools, they have baseball teams that are highly productive.
Yes.
Those kids are going to be making money.
Yeah.
So it hits everybody. I'm going to jump off here and let other people call, Greg.
Got it.
But I just wanted to make the point that I think this really hurts the ACC at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If this goes through. So
got it.
With that, no future big expansion without making sure Notre Dame bends the knee.
Got it. All right. Beautiful.
Let's see ya.
PATC World Champion, Trivia World Champion, College Football Trivia World Champion, Moen Vision. Great call. Chris S. says, no way is Kansas or Utah signing off on that deal. Now, the reports from Dennis Dodd, breaking news this morning, not all the Big 12 presidents are convinced when it comes to this private equity deal. Also, in this reporting from Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, if there is a deal in place, CVC, the private equity firm, the global private equity firm, is going to need a grant of rights that goes beyond 2031. It's going to have to be a long-term deal. So Kansas and Utah, the decision is being rushed, it seems like, for those two universities. Are you going to sign? If you do, you're in the Big 12 long-term. And I mean long-term. Now again, even in this grant of rights, there's potentially a way to pay out of it, just like what Florida State and Clemson are trying to do. But man, it would... RW, CVC has a stake in La Liga. Yes, and so we could be seeing Kansas playing Real Madrid or PSG in basketball. Vox Quindaro, your mark is in a perfect position to blaze new trails. The Big Ten and the SEC watch every move he makes. Every move you make. Ooh, I might have to sing the Police song. I might have to do the Police song when it comes to your mark, the SEC, and the Big Ten. That's giving me an idea. Laura Weiss, I just don't see a long-term deal getting approved. Laura Weiss, Texas Tech, Red Raider. Interesting. Morris Simmons, this is a game changer move. Talking about Morris Simmons, talking about Florida State Seminoles. Mike Alford is not surprised by this. It's not like they're waking up and going, oh! No, Florida State, 6th Street. We've given you the update in the Holy Smokes Theater. O'Brien's Restaurant on 45th East Street. The Boardwalk, crispy green bean fries, private equity, and Florida State. And that's as far as we're going to go with that. We talked about it a little bit earlier on this show. So Florida State is being very aggressive. Wow. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333 again. It sounds like Calvin Sampson is for the deal. For the equity deal, for the naming rights deal, I don't know, but he's for the Big 12, doing all they can to grab to get more revenue, to make sure that they compete at the highest level. That's what these athletic departments want. That's what the universities want. These athletic departments are the front porch of these universities. The better that these athletic teams do, the more exposure for the university and the more students you are able to attract. It's just the truth. I'm just looking at all the breaking news here. More of the same. Just seeing if there's any different reporting. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Brandon Marcello is also reporting it. The Big 12 is exploring selling the naming rights for the conference, which would include dropping big, the word big, and replacing it with a corporate sponsor. Allstate 12, Allstate 16. Could be Allstate. Don't know. This is big breaking news all over the place. Holy smokes. Ryan Thomas, the Dr. Pepper Conference. Thank you for your generosity, Ryan Thomas. The Dr. Pepper Conference. Chris Hughes, if your mark can't get it passed by all, what effect would it have on him and the Big 12? Chris Hughes. Great question. Thank you for your super chat, Chris Hughes. Thank you for your continued generosity to our channel. That's a great question. Now, the naming rights to the conference, that's probably going to pass, right? But the big equity deal. That's a great question. You know, there might be some schools in the Big 12 that are looking at that extra 50 to 60, 80 million dollars and probably going, you know, we could probably survive without it. Our conference is going to be stronger short term for it, and because it's going to be stronger short term for it, it's probably going to be stronger long term for the money infusion. That is a great question. I don't have an answer. People want to answer Chris Hughes' great question in the comment section. Go for it. If your mark can't get it passed by all, what effect will it have on him and the Big 12? Your mark hasn't always been able to get what he wants, right? He wanted to add to the conference basketball affiliated schools, potentially a UConn, potentially a Gonzaga. And let's take a look. Let me get to Ryan Thomas's super chat, and then we're going to get back to your mark and Big 12 edition. Ryan Thomas, the Big 10 could be Wisconsin Dairy Association Conference. No, it will not. No, it will not.
God.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, the legend. I just lost him. Lewis, please call back. Please call back. I think he hung up or I didn't quite get to the call quick enough. Now, okay. All right. Okay. Name change. Private equity. Money coming in. Does this change anybody's calculation? Does it change any of the president's calculation? Probably not. But what does it do with the potentiality of expanding with the UConn or somebody when it comes to conference affiliation?
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, Mr. Duke Blue Devil, the floor is yours. What is going on? Holy smokes.
Well, it's first of all, Brett Yormark is very shrewd as far as he is definitely playing a game with the hand he's been dealt and doing the best he can with it.
Yeah.
Other commissioners in history, thinking back to people like John Marinato at the Big East, just let that conference die. I mean, at least Yormark's out there trying to make some moves. And, you know, not that the Big 12 has nothing, but in trying to compete with the SEC and the Big 10, it's going to be difficult. So when you really don't have anything else, you have nothing to lose by trying something that's novel. I mean, when it comes to the private equity, it's certainly worth looking at. There are some schools that are probably skeptical of it, but I'm giving credit for at least trying to think out of the box and seeing if something is viable, because a lot of these schools just aren't going to tap out their sources for NIL. I mean, the schools only have so many wealthy donors. And so this is an opportunity to do this. And as other people said, it does put the ACC schools in a tough position. I mean, I follow Duke, I follow West Virginia, and I follow Georgia. Yeah. So Georgia's in a great spot. Right? Yeah. And they're going to compete for national championships. That's wonderful. Duke is in a precarious spot. We don't know what the future holds. Now, Duke is a university and has a brand, particularly in basketball, is solid. I'm not worried about the Duke brand. And Duke in football, I mean, they've made tremendous improvements, but it's never been what the whole stake of the athletic department's been on. I mean, it's becoming that now, but it's not been historically. Mm-hmm. And so Duke as a university will be fine, no matter where it ends up, but there's concern that could get shuffled into a bad spot. Or it could end up in a good spot. We just don't know. And West Virginia's in the Big 12. Going into the season, there's no question. You're paying attention to things you didn't pay attention to as a college football fan in 1993. In 93, at 6 or 7 conferences, you didn't pay that much attention to which conference. But now you're paying attention to everything because the SEC and the Big 10 have put themselves up high. And so I believe that those games between the SEC and the Big 10 other conferences are going to be fierce. When you have an SEC or a Big 10 school lose, it's going to be much more notable because they have so much more money. How could they lose? But they will lose. And so I think you're going to see more of that. It's not good because it creates more of an NFL kind of a situation. But that's what college football's become. You still watch it, but you know where everybody sits. And then, the Big 12's where it is. The ACC, if you're not Florida State, Clemson, or North Carolina, you don't know where your future is this year. And beyond that, the schools below it are just doing the best they can with what they have and just trying to make that one spot in the playoffs. And so I don't think it's good, and I do wonder how it affects people, their younger people coming out. Will they follow college football like we did? Coming of age in the 80s and 90s, college football was a much better product than what it is now. Now it's very segmented and much more about money, but it's still something we're going to follow. We're doing it, but you do wonder where it leads to in the long run. Because you have to find a way for everybody to be in the game and to feel like it's equal, or if not, to play your own game somewhere else and win at that, because this model is not sustainable. And every school in the Big 12 and every school in the ACC is going to be trying to get into the Big 10 and the SEC. And that's going to be the case until at some point enough of the power of schools perhaps break away. But even then, you're always going to have issues. So it's not good, but it's fascinating. And I give Yormark credit, at least, given the hand he has. And he has a decent hand, but it's not. He has a better hand than Jim Phillips. But he's trying to do the best he can. He's been trying to do that from the beginning. I mean, to pull off the move. I mean, he let Texas and Oklahoma out at taking a risk that he would get Pac-12 schools. Had he not gotten the Pac-12 schools after letting Texas and Oklahoma out, he'd have egg on his face, but it worked out. He's rolling the dice again, and I hope it works out for him, and I give him credit for it. and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Fascinating story. Great reporting, Greg, and I enjoy your show. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Lewis. Beautiful call. The legend, Lewis, Mr. Duke Blue Devil. Wow. Excellent call. You know, it's fascinating to think about the reaction from the Big Ten and the SEC. You got that part of it. But the reaction from the ACC, you got that part of it. I am not sure there can be a reaction from the ACC. That is the problem.
Call from
Becky, go Huskies.
Becky, go Huskies. Can you hold on for just one moment, please?
I sure can.
I appreciate it. Super chat from Chris Hughes. Could it be that Yormark has pushed all his chips in and wants to see if Utah and Kansas are in this conference for the long haul? I think that might be one of the effects of it, but this is not why Yormark is doing it, right? His motives are elsewhere in doing this. He is betting on the future of the Big 12. He wants his teams to be able to compete at the highest levels in the next 6 years. He's betting on the next media rights deal. He's betting on basketball value to shoot upward. And a lot of people agree with him, including Greg Sankey. He's betting on the future of the Big 12. That's what he's been doing. So he's putting his chips in, and he's betting on the future 6 years from now. Their media rights deal, to be able to maybe buy back whatever they gave to private equity, maybe to sell another portion to private equity. He believes in all that. He believes it's a growth stock in the Big 12. One of the effects of all that is seeing, you know, we're going to find out if Utah and Kansas signs on the dotted line. I don't think that's part of the motivation of what Yormark is doing. That is my take on it. Thank you, Chris Hughes, again, for your incredible generosity to this channel. Becky, go Huskies. Thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm on the fence on the whole private equity thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because two reasons. One, they have to pay that money back. Like, these people aren't just giving them money willy-nilly and being like, oh, we don't want it back. Especially, you know, it's $1 billion we're talking about, not like, you know, not, you know.
We have breaking news. We have breaking news. Becky, go Huskies. I apologize. Can you hold on?
No, break it.
Your call is very important to me. As always, you were the first caller all time at Peek Around the Corner, so I do apologize. But we've got big breaking news. Big breaking news. Just now, reported by the great Brett McMurphy of Action Network, the Big 12 Conference, and Allstate. I said the word Allstate just about 10 minutes ago, but it was complete. I just said it. I couldn't think of anything else. I had no steam on this whatsoever. The Big 12 Conference and Allstate. The Big 12 Conference and Allstate are in discussions about selling the league's naming rights to the insurance giant, sources told Action Network. Named possibilities for the Big 12 include the Big Allstate Conference or the Allstate 12 Conference, as sources said. The multi-year deal could earn the league between $30 and $50 million annually every year. Every year, to be divided among its 16 league members. That's $2 to $3 million more to each school. If you put private equity on that what do we say? About another $5 to $6 million for each school per year. You're looking at $10 million. The Big 12 is also considering a financial company for its naming rights, which would pay the league slightly more than Allstate, sources said. While stadium, venues, bowl games sell naming rights, the Big 12's multi-year deal would be the first professional or collegiate league to sell its naming rights. It's unknown if a deal could be completed in time to begin the 2024 season with signage, field logos, and other items needing changes. The one concern, the NCAA's recent decision to allow corporate logos on the field, which could reduce the value of a naming rights deal, source said. That's it. That is it. It could be Allstate. Holy smokes. Back to you, Becky. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, no. With that now, I'm like, don't they have like the WWE logo on like the Big 12 title game for a few more years?
I don't know.
It's going to be the WWE Allstate Big 12 title game presented by Dr. Pepper. It's a mouthful. Good though. But no, I mean, like, like an extra $10 million per year paid out to their members would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just more curious what the equity firm would want paid back.
Well, they're looking at 15 to 20%. So of stake in the conference, and it sounds like they'll be willing to sell that off years from now. So I don't know. That seems to be the deal. $800 to $1 billion for 15 to 20% of the conference that they're willing to sell back to the conference or to somebody else years down the road.
I mean, like I said, it's a great idea. I mean, I like that he's thinking outside the box to give his conference as much stability as possible, especially as we head into uncertain times where paying players is going to be a thing. And this does give them, that much more money that they can pay their athletes, because, a lot of these schools operate with extremely slim margins anyway in their athletic budgets. Not many turn a profit. Most are in the red. But I mean, it's so uncertain that I think, like, if I were in an athletic department, this would terrify me. Only in that, it creates, like, they would have to expand because they're going to want a return on their investment, whatever that is. Is that saying, like, we want national titles in both football and basketball in order to do it again? Like, say when this is up, they're going to want to invest more money. Like, well, we need to see X or we need to see Y. That's where, like, for me, that's where it just gets so weird. And these, like I said, these equity firms, they want their money back, and then to reinvest, they're going to want something else. And that's the big question: is what kind of things can they honestly ask for, right? Mm-hmm. It's just it's a slippery slope. I don't think it does anything. It would be like, let's say the ACC does, like, Florida State and them do leave, and the ACC kind of gets in a little bit of a pickle here. They're going to have to go ask for more money if they add schools, but, are those schools going to want to take on that kind of debt when they know, hey, we can just stay here and we're going to make less, but we don't have that additional debt?
Yeah, but they might not be able to compete. I mean,
this is like, it's like, well, and Wild Youth did the math on Twitter, and he's like, this is essentially 2 years of their media contract is what each school would get. That doesn't close the gap over the course of 6, 7 years, whatever it is, until their next TV deal. They're still very far behind. Like, it's not changing any of that. It's just it's giving them a chance, but they're still not closing that gap. outside of basketball where everybody's paid equally.
They're not closing the gap in regards to how much. I think what this is, and I could be wrong, but what I think this is, and I'll show Wild Youth's tweet up here. I saw it too. I got it up here. This is about ensuring that the Big 12 can do what the SEC and the Big 10 is going to do for the next 6 years. And that is to be able to pay that 22, 23, soon to be 24, whatever, $1 million salary cap, direct payments going to the student athletes so they can attempt to recruit at a decent level, right? I think that's what this is about when it comes to all their sports, being able to, and that $62.5 million, along with like let's say a $3 million per school naming rights. Now you're looking at about $10 million for each school each year of those 6 years. You're looking about a little bit more. So now your school. Go ahead.
Which, like, you know, people in there are like, they're referencing that, saying that's closing that. It's still not that's not closing the gap. It's still a gap. It's not getting tighter. It's staying right where it is. Like I said, it helps. Like you're saying, it helps in certain other areas, but as far as like it goes toward getting closer to the Power 2, they're not closer. I mean, they're technically they're closer, but Power 2 are going to have to generate more money as well. So it's
let me rephrase this. This. I think there is an enormous amount of pressure on the Big 12 and the ACC schools to somehow,
guaranteed,
to somehow, some way, come up with that $20 to $22 million each year for the next 6 years. I think they believe if they don't come up with that money, they're going to get absolutely slaughtered on the courts and on the football fields, on the baseball fields, and everywhere. They've got to come up with that $20 to $22 million. And for a lot of these universities, that is unbelievably difficult. I saw someone in the chat room say $2 to $3 million more a year, that's chump change. No, it isn't. All of that adds up, and it adds up quickly. If you get $2 to $3 million in a corporate naming, if you get $6 million a year in this equity, suddenly you're up to about $10 million. And now, because a lot of these schools probably can do a $10 million on their own, you know, I think that's what they believe is vital, to close the gap when it comes to that yearly salary cap, not how much you're going to make as an athletic department.
And I think, you know, really it comes down to how the schools use that money that closes the gap, like you're saying. Like, they have to be smart. Like, are they going to hire... You know, are they going to give like assistant coaches and like football, for instance? That's the biggest thing right now, assistant coaching pool. That's the biggest difference between like the Alabamas and the Ohio States of the world, and then like, you know, the Utahs or, you know, even like the Washingtons and the Oregons and them, like that gap, because, you know, like you can go, our pool is only $2 million, $3 million, but you can go to another school like in Ohio State and that it's like, okay, $7, $8, $9 million. So it gives them that little bit of wiggle room. But, I mean, it's just, for me, like, it's $1 billion plus 15 to 20% in interest. It's essentially taking your future media deal. It's an investment off your future media deal. So they're going to have to make sure, like, this almost ensures, I will say this, I think it almost ensures that they have to expand so that they can ensure that they get that, whatever that dollar amount is, in the future from ESPN or Fox or whomever, and still, you know, be able to pay that loan. Like, so they're going to have to make more money plus in order to pay this back, where the schools are stuck paying. You know, my big thing is, like, somebody's been in athletics, works for athletic departments. When you pay, that money has to be paid back, and your margins are already very, very slim. You know, asking boosters to, hey, can you pitch in, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 to help us pay back, you know, you're asking, you know, like a couple hundred of them, obviously, but you're like, can you pitch in this much money and like help us pay off some of this debt I mean, the conference isn't the one that's going to pay it back. The schools are the conference.
Yeah.
That's my only concern with it. It's a slippery slope, but this opens the door. This also opens the door for groups like the Saudis and all these other firms out there. Like Florida State. I don't even think they were going to be paying anybody back. Like it was just like an investment, and then Florida State was going to do. I don't know how they were going to make it work, but from what I remember, they weren't having to pay the money back.
Oh yeah, they were. Florida State. Yeah, they're gonna have to pay the money back.
So
yeah, I mean, look at Washington. They're taking out a loan from the Big Ten, from Fox, and from their own internal school, right?
Yeah,
but
and that's the biggest reason for that is now that their budgets actually come out is their stadium debt that they've been putting off at Washington.
Yeah.
Putting off the stadium debt, but we don't have a journalism school. We have to build a multimedia center for the Big Ten. That's like a requirement. So, that throws us $30 million in debt because we don't have it. We don't have this facility or anything. So, UW has to take the future in order to offset. Otherwise, they're going to be $40-50 million in the hole every single year for 10 years because, like you said, they have to borrow. The school's fine. The school can pay it back whenever, but they have to the athletic department's separate from the school itself, essentially. They have to pay the school for everything.
Let's say the Big 12 does this deal, okay? Let's say the Big 12 does this deal for $1 billion. Do you know how the ACC can get $1 billion, Becky? Have 4 schools write a $250 million exit fee check. Make a deal,
Absolutely.
Right? Bam.
Yeah.
Now those schools have their $1 billion. And their media money is going to get a little lower, but they're going to have the money to, they're going to have that. They're going to have that 6 to 8 to 10 million a year for a while to fill up the gaps, and so. All right, I appreciate it, Becky.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, it's just, for me, this is scary. I like the outside the box thinking that they're doing. Don't get me wrong. I think it's smart. But at the same time, this is a big, big, big risk and a gamble that it can work. Because, like I said, this could saddle a conference with debt for, a decade plus.
Got it. All right, beautiful. Thanks, Becky.
All right.
Yeah.
Love you as always, Greg. Great show. Go Huskies.
Great call, Becky. Go Huskies. Nate Simons. Brett McMurphy just posted on X what the naming rights partner could be. Allstate, with the deal valued between 30 to 50 million per year. Yes, we did cover it, and I did read the article here live. Thank you, Nate, for the super chat. Thank you for the heads up. But we did see it right when it hit. Again, 30 to 50 million a year. Another $2 to $3 million per school. It all adds up. Look, it is a risk. It is all a risk. Becky is absolutely correct. Everybody in the chat is absolutely correct. Wild Ute is absolutely correct. Do you know what is also another risk? Not to be able to compete. Forget about Michigan. Forget about Alabama. Forget about Ohio State. Forget about Penn State. Forget about the big time schools in the Big Ten, the SEC. If you are not able to go to a recruit and match what Purdue is willing to offer, what Minnesota is willing to offer, what Rutgers is willing to offer, what Maryland, every other school in the Big Ten, every other school in the SEC, you're going to be losing recruits that you have not lost in the past. And I'm not talking just football. I'm talking about other sports as well. That is also a risk. And $10 million is not chump change. $15 million is not chump change. It is a risk. But the Big 12 believes that their value is going to skyrocket 6 years from now. And CVC believes that it will as well. Some of it has to do with basketball. Some of it just has to do with future media rights. They need the cash now to bet on the future. It's a risk. But it's also a risk not to do it while you have some other conference doing it. Let's put it this way. I'll give you another example. If the Big 12 does this, and the ACC does it because it can, Iowa State's ability to maintain a football staff, the ability to maintain a basketball staff, to recruit for basketball players, football players, versus a Syracuse. Iowa State versus Syracuse. The day-to-day exposure, being able to recruit, advantage Iowa State over Syracuse. The gap grows between Iowa State and Syracuse. It's just the truth of it. What does that do for 6 years from now when it comes to the All-State Conference? There is a risk in doing this. There is a risk in not doing this. And then you've got the, look behind you, Big 12. Look behind you. There's some G5 conferences, right? There is some steam in regards to a Frankenstein G5 conference. There is some steam in the AAC Pernetti doing a deal like this. We're talking about the Big 12 today. We possibly could be talking about the AAC tomorrow. Now you might say, Greg, it don't matter what the AAC does. They are no threat to the Big 12 and the ACC. They're not. But again, those schools, if they make a deal, these schools can spend a little bit money on recruiting. Ishmael Mahdi, the great running back from Texas State, a name that a lot of you haven't heard. He ran over, 1,300 yards last year, 6 yards per average, an incredible running back. Schools went after him. They knocked on his door. He was not interested. This year, this is going to be his sophomore year. He's probably going to dominate. He's got Jordan McLeod, the transfer that came from James Madison to Texas State. Texas State's going to be scoring so many points this year in the Sun Belt Conference. Going in his third year, maybe Texas State, if the Sun Belt Conference does this type of deal, maybe they can keep Ishmael Mahdi, the great running back, for another year. Maybe he doesn't go to the Big 12. Maybe he doesn't go to the SEC. Maybe he doesn't go to the Big 10. So there is a risk in doing it, no question about it. There's a risk in not doing it. This is essential prisoner dilemma. If you don't do it and someone else does, now you are under a lot of pressure. If you do it, you're under a lot of pressure because you're going to have to pay. There's a payment coming down the track. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. The line is open. Holy smokes. Lewis, high-level financial show. Fascinating times indeed. Of course, as you all know, I do not know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to private equity. But we do know enough to know that it's coming. And thank you, Lewis, for the super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate your generosity, your friendship, and your absolutely legendary phone calls. Thank you, Lewis, Mr. Blue Devil. And, and I don't know I don't know anything about this stuff, but in the reporting of Dennis Dodd and the other reporting and what we told you a couple weeks ago on a live show, it's not just the money that you're getting from private equity that you're going to have to pay back. It's not just the money that is the value. It's their connections. It's their clients. You're probably going to get more value, not just the money, but something else is coming along with it. That is what is being sold. That is being what is sold to Florida State. That is what is being sold to. That is what, look, the NBA does all these, not all of them. About 2/3 of the NBA franchises have sold part of their franchise to private equity. And then private equity uses all their clients to bring in more value to the franchise. That is what the Big 12 is thinking as well. Wild times. Big 12's missing an exciting opportunity for an airline to sponsor them.
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan, I'm interested to hear what Tristan has to say on this very, very breaking news Thursday, June 13th. Holy smokes. The floor is yours, Tristan.
Thanks, Greg. Hey, listen, this is huge news. I think what's going on here, obviously, is that the Big 12 is looking for every conceivable revenue stream. And if you recall, there was something, I forget what agreement it was, but there was something in one of these agreements that the conferences had, it might have been relating to the new playoff, where it was going to facilitate movement from the Big 12 into either the Big 10 or the SEC if the time came for any of those schools to make a move. Do you recall something along those lines?
No.
Okay. So the idea behind getting this revenue is obviously to keep up with, the Big 10 and the SEC so that they can compete. And, of course, the goal in all of this long term is to establish a track record of success to the point where they might actually get the opportunity to move into one of those two conferences, right? Would you agree that that's a long-term goal for all these schools?
Yes. And for the conference is, again, to be able to compete at the conference goal is to be able to punch above your weight a little bit when it comes to the college football playoffs so you can get more of that playoff money. So I also think that's what also is going into the Big 12's thinking about this. But go ahead. Keep going.
So what I'm thinking about here is, if they're going to have some measure of success, I mean, let's assume that there's all kinds of private equity money coming in and they're going to start doing naming rights on stadiums and putting, patches on uniforms and just everything they can think of to generate revenue. And then let's say that they take that revenue gap and let's say they cut it in half, just for the sake of argument. Mm-hmm. Does that then prompt either the Big Ten or the SEC to follow suit, in your opinion, to try and keep the edge that they had from the get-go?
I'm definitely not gonna discount that possibility.
Okay.
I don't see how you can. I don't think you can eliminate it. But I haven't heard, I'm going to have to poke and prod on it, but I haven't heard anything about Big Ten and private equity. Really, I haven't. It's a question I haven't asked in a long time, but I'm going to have to get on the ball and get to it. But I definitely would not discount it, and it's probably, if I had a bet on it, I'd probably say it's going to happen sometime in the future.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you on that. I do think that if they have success in closing the gap, that the Big Ten and the SEC will feel some pressure to go ahead and widen that gap again.
Yeah.
That's just my gut feeling. And the other thing, too, is let's not assume, I know there was some good comments made earlier in the comment section regarding the grant of rights.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not assume here that the courts have declared grant of rights as a rock solid thing.
Yeah.
There still might be some sovereign immunity arguments that prevent the grant of rights from ever really having a whole lot of teeth. And if that turns out to be the case, I'm not predicting it, Greg. I'm not saying that that's the way it's going to go. But I'm just saying, if that turns out to be the case, then that's going to greatly reduce the amount of money that they're going to be able to get, in my opinion. Because there could be movement. There could be movement if the grant of rights thing doesn't have teeth.
Yep. True. Very true.
Yeah. So there's so many questions about how the conferences are going to interact with each other and with private equity and with naming rights. And, man, this is like the most uncertain I think it's ever been.
Yes.
This news that we're hearing right now is just opening the floodgates here of uncertainty and all the different directions things can go. And the thing on top of all of this, Greg, is that we still have Supreme Court decisions coming down in the future, right? There's still some more decisions to be made. And so that's going to probably play a role in how all this goes as well, I would imagine. So this is just wild. I never thought this year was going to be like it is right now.
Yep. I mean, the Big 12, if they can get this deal done, if they can get everybody on board, maybe they're going to be putting CVC on their football field. I don't know. We'll see. The new conference names, new signage.
Yeah, they're going to be putting logos on the fields. Greg, I used to watch a lot of Georgia Tech basketball, and I don't know if you remember this, but they financed a new court. I don't know if it was a whole new basketball arena or if they were just refurbished the one that they had, but they financed it with some money from McDonald's, and they played for like 5 or 6 seasons with a big McDonald's logo on their court. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that. Was that back in the coach with the big white gray hair?
That was just after Cremens left.
Okay.
It was probably like 15 years ago, if my memory serves correctly. But we're going to see that all over the place. I think you're going to see football fields and basketball courts with logos on them. You're going to see jerseys with logos, naming rights on. They're going to rename all the stadiums and basketball courts and probably the baseball fields and everything else. And it's probably going to go that way. I think you're probably right. I think it's going to drag the SEC and the Big Ten into the same mode. And they're going to start doing the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, that's where we're headed. But anyway, hey, thanks for taking my call, Greg, and I'll catch up with you later.
You got it. Appreciate it. Great call.
All right, bye-bye.
Ryan Willie, in my opinion, none of this will help the Big 12 unless they sign a better media deal. Well, they can't sign a better media deal until 2030-31. They signed a good enough deal. They signed the best deal they could have in this market, in this media market, good enough to force, good enough to be able to poach the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 could not match the Big 12 media rights deal, especially when it came to the good exposure the Big 12 has. But this would help bridge the gap until the next media rights deal for the Big 12, and they're betting on themselves. So, again, a lot of people are looking at this $6 to $10 million a year as inconsequential. That's a lot of money. That could be enough to be able to keep your really good running back, good quarterback, really good power forward on your basketball team, a head coach. I mean, it all adds up. And they need to be able to compete in the marketplace. That's what the Big 12 is trying to ensure for the next 6 years. Thank you for your super chat, Ryan Willie. Thanks once again for your generosity. I'm going to have to pause the show for a moment. Nope, it's not a bathroom break. I got to check on something. I'll be back in a moment. So everybody just hang on for about 1 minute. Thank you. All right, we're back. Thank you guys for your patience. The phone lines are back open. 763 260 Big breaking news is being reported in other places as well. Ross Dellinger now is also saying that Allstate and Big 12 are in negotiations.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. Mr. Hurricane is on the line. The floor is yours. What are you thinking of all this, man?
You know, it's nuts, Greg. I was not going to call in today because I don't want to sidetrack into conversations and we took more general call, but there's just so much going on and maybe there's even a tie to it. But I think, everyone who's talking about how this isn't going to solve all the Big 12 problems, clearly it's not. But there aren't any of these things that are going to magically solve a problem in one fell swoop, right? So the cumulative effect and at least being bold and signaling out there, I think is pretty impressive what he's trying to do. And, everyone likes to be in these black and white areas and it's all or nothing. You figure it out today or you don't. I think it's a really smart move, and it makes sense what he's trying to do. And if he pulls it off, I think, what Moen said earlier and others have talked to, it just makes it very impossible for the ACC to figure out how they're going to bridge that gap. And, it is actually, when people talk to each other in different languages, this is Brett talking to the ACC members also at the same time as he's talking to his own schools about what their future looks like.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And we also have news out of Miami.
For sure.
Julio Frank is going to UCLA. And so now
Correct.
the Miami job is open. That is going to be a very important hire for Miami.
Well, let's do this role play thing for a second, Greg, that you like to do.
Yes.
In this entire world that's going on in college football and college athletics right now, if someone said, hey, you have your typical school presidents in charge of things, right? But one of them, hold on 1 second, Greg.
Yep, no problem.
I have an alarm going off in the background. But one of the presidents is the former CEO of Deloitte and Touche and is on the board, the chairman of the board of directors of the Bank of New York, alongside other things. And the chairman of their board is on the board of directors of Home Depot and other finance entities, as well as their own automotive thing. What would you say about that team relative to other people who are sitting in similar chairs, both in the conferences that have stability or chaos?
I'm sorry, I did not understand what you just. Can you repeat what you just said? I try to follow it, but go ahead.
Yeah. So the interim president, to be really direct, the interim president of the University of Miami,
Yep.
is the former CEO of Deloitte and Touche for years. Right.
Yep.
Is the chairman of the board of the Bank of New York, because he was sitting on the board. He wasn't a college president. That's who that person is. He also happens to be that person who initiated whatever your take may or may not be on Mario Cristobal as a coach himself, but he's the person within the organization that, alongside a couple of other people, spearheaded Miami getting their act together and investing into the program in 2021. He's now the interim president. Like, that's the person who's there.
Got it.
So I don't, it may be just, I'm sure it's just fortuitous. And as you know, and as others have said, talked about, I said Frank was not going to be part of this conversation months ago. If you were in the Miami circles, you knew a year ago it was unlikely. He got saved 5 years ago by COVID. That did come to pass, so I will take a W before I probably take another L down the road, to quote you. And as I've said online, he escaped to UCLA, and it doesn't mean he won't be awesome at UCLA, because he might be the right guy at the right time, and lots of us have been fired and succeeded wildly after, including CEOs and presidents of universities. But it might just be fortuitous timing that sequence parallels this moment. So it would be super interesting in terms of this entire private equity and raising money, or your comment earlier about, hey, ACC could raise $1 billion if 4 schools didn't exit. And even if Frank was more involved, if he was part of the mess that you've alluded to before, if he was the one who still had enough power left to make votes on the ACC lawsuits that I despise against Florida State, everything's massively changed, right? And I wouldn't expect Miami to get a new president from the academic side anytime soon. As you know, these searches go on for a long time.
Yeah, they do.
I'm not in favor of the current interim president becoming the ultimate president, because I would like to see academics as well go, but he is also basically the CEO of UHealth, which is the Miami medical system too. So there's a lot there going on that just timing wise might be interesting in this conversation, that if we see things change anytime soon, it may just be because of the sequences of events that were happening in one area happen to coincide with the dynamic of the capital explosion that's going on that we're seeing today with the bold moves that the Big 12 is making. I have no prediction on that, other than we would be talking about it more today if all this craziness and things that where people were expecting to happen didn't suddenly start flooding in this morning.
Yeah, it's going to be something that we're going to be following closely. It's what I only my wife knows this, but I have got notebooks. Now I'm using note cards. I take notes every day. And one of my notes from yesterday was ask questions about the new president of Miami. When I talk to people that I talk with. So I got paper all over the studio. I'm old school. I put things on pieces of paper. I don't go into my computer, and I don't, everything is something that I can easily throw away, and I rip it up before I throw it away, so don't come through my trash cans and stuff. But the Miami situation now becomes interesting again, because there's going to be somebody new at the leadership, which brings on the potential of new contacts, new relationships. The person might be able to bring in some consensus with the school, and maybe that person is, we'll find out. But it becomes interesting again. Miami might get out of its own quagmire. In other words,
we'll also know that Miami's chairman of the board also changed June 1st. So there's just a lot coinciding that, is not necessarily directly related to what Brett did today in the Big 12, but in the overall scheme of things, it might just be there's a lot of different stories from the lawsuit to Congress to private equity all converging together in a tidal wave that comes sooner or together that we might not have thought of. And the only other thing I would say about the Big 12 side is I paid more attention over the last year is Brett's like the evil twin in a good way of Sankey, right? If Sankey tries to say nothing and says stuff, Brett's just like, I got it and I'm throwing it out. And the other thing I sort of take away from him is he never has like just one move. He's like the Joker and with Heath Ledger. He's got plans upon he's got plans. He's got a lot of different plans. Right? And he's identifying them, and he's probably going to drop more things over both to take care of his new conference alignment, as well as to paint in the sky the, hey, ACC schools, you should be paying attention here because it's just getting worse for you.
Yep.
So that's my take.
Beautiful call, Rock and Rant. Appreciate it, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You got it. Black Rain, no offense to some Big Ten fans. You need other schools to start winning championships other than Ohio State, Michigan. Cameron B, their next best shot is Oregon, USC. They have good football schools, but outside Oregon, USC, Ohio State, Michigan, no Big Ten schools can win or will win a title. Well, a lot of schools, if you were in the same conference as Michigan and Ohio State, you wouldn't be winning any titles either. I think that is always what people miss in that conversation. Try winning a title against Ohio State and Michigan. Just try it. Try it. So it's not easy. It is not easy. But I won't go down that road again. Didn't Washington just play in a title game? Yes, they did. But they weren't in the Big Ten at the time. So, Penn State needs to show up. They're really good, 10-2, 9-3 team. Right? They would be very good in the SEC. They would be coming in 4th, 5th, 6th place in the SEC. They would be up there in the Big 12. They'd be the favorite in the they'd be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the ACC. It's not easy, guys. It's not easy. Let me see now. John Kurtz. I agree with John here. John Kurtz. A lot of Big Ten people are saying it's only a few million here, only a few million there, but what is John Kurtz? I guess my question to the people that really hate this is, what is the alternative for the Big 12? If you can't hit that $22 million revenue share number, you're going to start hemorrhaging players to the Big Ten and the SEC. Are you cool with truly becoming a minor league by 2025-26? It's a great question. I know a lot of people like to ding the SEC schools that are not like the top 4 or 5 brands. A lot of people like to ding the Big Ten schools that are not Michigan or Ohio State or possibly USC, Oregon, Washington. But those other schools that you ding, they're going to have a lot more resources than the Big 12 schools. If you don't do something to make sure you get to that $22 million million revenue sharing number. And by the way, that $22 million revenue sharing number is going to just go up. So when you bring in private equity, when you bring in the conference, and here's Scott underneath John Kurtz, that 30, 50 million rumor is only $3 million per school. Well, it's $3 million more than you would. It all adds up. I mean, what I'm getting the impression from Big 12 fan bases, not from everybody, not from a lot, not from people in the PATC community, but a lot of people on X is, we don't need to do any of this because we can get to the $22 million without any of this. Really? It's not going to be easy, guys, gals. It's going to be like impossible for some of these schools. And then you're going to be losing that 4-star left tackle. You're going to be losing him to Illinois instead of easily getting him that 4-star left tackle that is coming out of the state of Kansas is not going to be going to Kansas State or Kansas. That 4-star safety that can't quite get to Oklahoma but would play for Oklahoma State, he's going to be playing for Arkansas. That is the difference.
Call from
Edward the Auburn Tiger.
Edward, Mr. Auburn Tiger is on the line. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling again.
Hey, Greg, another great show, man. I always enjoy yourself and all the great
I
callers.
appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
What a monumental day we're having today.
Yeah, it is.
It seemed to be setting up as a defining moment what's happening in college football. And I tell you really have to give you kudos to Brent Yermark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm an SEC guy. I've loved our commissioners, from Sankey to mine's drawing the brink, but I absolutely love our commissioners. And looking what he's done today, looking what he's done in that conference, Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, getting lemons and making lemonade out of what he's doing and the moves he's making, and he's putting a lot of pressure on the ACC with these moves. And I think the important thing is the timing too, Greg. I mean, if Florida State, Clemson breaks through with their court cases of really downplaying the grant of rights, that would hurt a deal like what they're trying to make in the Big 12. So I feel like they're trying to rush this to really get the ducks in order to lay a foundation that if it does go the other way, I mean, the deal is already made. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're onto something, sir. I think you're onto something. Yep.
And so, but yeah, so I said, what a monumental time in college football. And listen, once again, I'm an SEC guy.
Yeah.
I've been reading some of the commentation here on your page here. And I don't know why all the SEC hate. I mean, when you look over the last 15, 20 years.
It's jealousy,
LSU,
man. It's jealousy.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia. I mean, all these teams have won national championships.
Yep.
I mean, what other conference can say that? I mean,
Nobody.
I don't think. I mean, it's hard winning a championship.
Yep.
And that's not even talking about all the years these teams have been in contention.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I really don't understand that. I give the Big Ten respect. I mean, listen, I do believe your show has some Big Ten hints, but you do your best to be neutral, and I really, really appreciate that. And plus, trust me, I've watched your show for some time, and I've taken a lot of SEC hating. And I don't normally say nothing. I want to call it, normally don't say anything, but just wanted to chime that in. That listen, we've earned everything we have in the SEC.
It's the most valuable, powerful athletic conference in the country, and I always keep saying that. Yep.
Yeah, and Greg, what, 40, 50 years ago was not like that. I mean, they didn't even want to give us any opportunities at the conference. You know, we thought we were like a Sun Belt, like a Big 12 is. And we've had to fight for everything we have. And don't underestimate the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 can become a Kansas basketball. I mean, Kansas hasn't always had great basketball. But look at them now. UConn hasn't always had great basketball. But look at them now. You give this conference money and investment. And they able to make right moves and win on the field. Because last time I checked, and I'm going to be blunt, Greg, that, you know, Big Ten pride themselves on being as good as the SEC. I haven't seen the Big Ten beat everybody else like the SEC is doing. I mean, I haven't seen marquee teams, Big Ten versus Big 12, Big Ten versus ACC outside of Ohio State and Clemson. But that was a neck-and-neck deal. I mean, I haven't seen dominance. And so, I mean, there's an avenue for the Big 12 to make haste and to rise and increase their value. And if they do that by winning 6, 8 years from now, we're having different conversations, Greg. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, look, things are always changing. Things do not remain the same. I agree with you. Big East basketball came out of nowhere. Patrick Ewing, right? It created such a value, just a burst of energy, so many eyeballs on the Big East basketball. It became so powerful. Things can change. Things always do change. So you're absolutely right. The Big 12.
Look at the Missouri Tigers. Look at the Missouri Tigers. Yeah, they joined the SEC. They have more resources to work with. I mean, not too many people saw them beating Ohio State this past year. And we're going 10 wins in the SEC. I mean, so things can change. And I'm proud of Britt Yornhart. I'm proud of the Big 12. I mean, man, and this what an opportunity. Now I'm kind of skeptical on the private equity part. Don't understand a lot about that. I mean, it's like doing a deal with the devil, so to speak. But if all the terms are there, and if you know you have a faith that you can put a good product on that field, and you have an opportunity with the college football playoff to get a guaranteed team in the field, and if you can win a few games like TCU did, just make a name for the conference, a lot of perception can change, which creates value, which creates more opportunities.
All right. Appreciate it. Great call.
Thank you, Greg.
Mr. Auburn Tiger.
Have a great day, sir.
You too. Thank you. Great call. Mr. Auburn Tiger makes a lot of great points. Now, Immaculate and some other people are pushing back on the Big Ten. Michigan literally just beat Alabama. And I will say, once again, I guess it's my biasness, but, you know, if you look at the bowl records, if you look at the actual, like Northwestern, Minnesota, Wisconsin, I think it's something like 20-4, the bowl records in the last. Like, the Big West teams have been beating the other power conferences in bowl games. Now, Nebraska can't get to a bowl game. I think Iowa's also in that. I don't know. The Big Ten West, it is not like the Big Ten, just because the other schools can't beat Michigan and Ohio State, it's not like we can't beat ACC, Big 12 schools. We beat them, they beat us, but it isn't like we're getting dominated. So I think people are too... You try beating Ohio State. You try beating Michigan. It's not easy. It's just like trying to beat Alabama, for goodness sakes. Try to beat Georgia. It's not easy, guys. It's not easy. USC probably beats Michigan this year in the Big House. I'm looking forward to USC coming to Minnesota this year, and I'm looking for the uniforms. I think we're going to see a pretty nice set of uniforms. The score might not go Minnesota's way, but the uniform from USC and Minnesota, I think it's going to be a very good visual. Very good visual. Ryan Willie, for all the Big Ten haters from the SEC, when was the last time someone other than Bama or UGA won? A lot of them have, Ryan. That's what Auburn guy just said. I mean, it's been a while, but Auburn won it. Tennessee won it with Fulmer. LSU won it. There's been more schools in the SEC that won it. So I gotta go to the Auburn's defense here. Mr. Auburn Tiger, they've had more schools win it. The SEC has been the best football conference in the country. So I'm now rushing back to the SEC defense. And now let me rush over to the Big 12 defense. It's going to be an exciting year. There's a lot of parity, and things can change. There's been no Big 12 school that has won a playoff game, but that time is coming soon. So now that I've rushed to everybody's defense, Skaven, yes, Nebraska will go bowling this year. I do agree with that. Woo! TCU did great, Greg. Yes, they did. Yep, they did. Steven, I'm curious to know how post-Nick Saban SEC will look. That's very good. Yes, very interesting. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for your super chat. Thank you for your continued generosity. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. So many breaking news. So much breaking news. Again, this is John Kurtz tweets. Big 12 schools have to find $22 million a year moving forward to even have a chance. Maybe that will be enough to stay competitive depending how the rules wind up breaking down with NIL. Maybe not, but it's either try to hit that number or just slide down and accept defeat now.
Call from
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues, can you just hold on for 1 minute, please?
Sure.
I do appreciate it. I just want to hit this one more time. And then John Kurtz's next tweet is, I just don't think enough people have wrapped their heads around the reality. If you don't go down the private equity road here, to bet on yourself for the next 6 years, you won't be able to keep the Ollie Gordons, the Avery Johnsons, the Noah Fafidis, etc. 2 years from now. I think John Kurtz is bringing up a lot of great points. It's a risk if you do this, baby. It's a big risk. And man, it's a big risk if you do not do this. Movie Time Blues, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
I want to talk about the new deal that the Big East has is supposed to be done in a few days or so. It seems that the pressure is now really ramping up between the top two conferences and now the conferences like the Big 12 and the Big East. It seems like there's been like a double, triple teaming on one other conference, the ACC. That's what it seems to me.
You're talking about the Big East media deal here with Fox and NBC and TNT, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I only know, I read the headlines. I didn't really delve into it. And that's going to start up pretty soon. Like the Fox is going to, or that's going to be like decided on in a couple of days. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, that's the speculation.
Yeah. And what
because
does that? How does that affect the ACC? Is that what you're?
what
Yeah.
I'm thinking that they're anticipating major changes within the college sports landscape, and they might be putting themselves in a position where they could receive programs in case another big conference starts to disintegrate. That's what it seems to me.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why do we have like two other big major media companies buying into the Big East?
Yeah. Great question. Great question. Great comment. Great call. Why are they all buying in the Big East? Why is Fox Sports willing to share in this? Man, it raises a lot of antennas. A lot of people go into the conspiracies, and I don't blame them. Again, we reported, and this is another example, or could be another example. There's people believe the basketball value is going to shoot straight up in this media world. Could this mean that is this somehow a way for Fox to make sure that these Big East schools don't get entangled with the ACC? Are they looking for some more scheduling agreements between the Big East and the Big 12, which is Fox, or Big East and the Big 10? Or is this going to be leading to more expansion, more basketball-centric affiliation, going to the Big 12, going to the Big 10? Are we looking at basketball-affiliated expansion among the power conferences? I do not know, but it brings up some intriguing questions. I do agree with you, Movie Time Blues.
Yeah, and it seems that Fox Sports understands that the changing landscape has presented them with multiple opportunities to go into different directions, because if you have, remember the winter programming comes after the college football, so they need to show something between the end of college football and the start of spring sports.
Yeah.
So that's an area where they're going to be other opportunities opening up.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's all very intriguing, isn't it?
Yes.
This whole basketball thing, everyone's betting on basketball. I don't know. It brings in a whole nother layer into all this, which I'm not quite understanding, but it's being told to us constantly. So a lot of people betting on it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the call, Movie Time Blues.
Thank you very much.
Call again, sir.
No problem.
Beautiful. I don't know. People are sending me pictures of. That was a good call. Good call by Movie Time Blues. Absolutely. Cameron B, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, Aramco, or 10 cent 12 probably pays more than Allstate. Thank you, Cameron B, for the super chat. Maybe that whole Allstate thing was leaked so other corporations would come over the top on their bid. Maybe that's why it was leaked right now. They want those last bids to come in. $30 to $50 million for Allstate. Somebody willing to pay more than that? The times they are a-changing. Randy Taylor. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button and smash that like button if you like our content. If you subscribe to our channel, you can turn on your notifications. We came on early this morning. We've been on the air for 3 hours. Sometimes we come on in the morning, sometimes during lunch, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes in the evening. We go where the story goes. It was breaking news. The Big 12 could be making a deal with the private equity firm CVC for $800 million to $1 billion for 15 to 20% stake of the conference. So we go where the story goes. So make sure you subscribe, have your notifications turned on, follow us at Plug Empire on X. It's on the ticker on the bottom of the screen right now because sometimes we're able to give you a heads up. We only were able to give you a heads up of a couple minutes this morning. I was in the studio. I was creating doing some work for our channel, and then the news hit, and that's why we were able to come on even before a lot of people even knew what was going on. Bam, we came on live. People who are subscribed to our channel are getting notified, and we had a big crowd right at the beginning. I appreciate you all from coming on in. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Big 12. Possible deal with private equity coming up. And then naming rights for the conference. It sounds like Allstate is in the thick of it in negotiations with the Big 12. The Allstate 12 or the Big Allstate, whatever the name's going to be. I think it's a good deal for the corporation. How many times let's say it's the Allstate Conference. How many times are you going to read the Allstate Conference? How many times are you going to say the Allstate Conference? How many times are you going to put in the chat room Allstate Conference? And then when EA Sports Game comes out, it's going to be not the Big 12 Conference. It's going to be the Allstate Conference. The Allstate's going to be on the football field. The Allstate's going to be in signage in the stadium. The Allstate's going to be plastered everywhere. That's worth $30 to $50 million. That's worth $30 to $50 million in my opinion. P. Lit, Greg, there will be emergency newscasts from you within the next month. Yeah, we've had a lot of emergency newscasts within the last year, and it will continue to do so. Ryan Willie, insurance bills will probably go up if Allstate reaches a deal. Good one, Ryan Willie. Yes. Keep chopping. The Allstate 12 is going to make my insurance goes up. This sucks. Becky Go Huskies. It's being pointed out that the Pac-12 had an offer from private equity back in 2018. Turned it down, but was widely laughed at for considering it. Morris Simmons, yes, indeed a message was sent to the ACC. Go Black 45, the Big 12 presented by Allstate, just like the Rose Bowl deal was. Cameron B says it's worth more than 30 to 50 million. Okay, we got some breaking news, and I don't know how to read it. We've got more breaking news. Not as big as this, but interesting. More breaking news. Adam Rittenberg, ESPN. Northwestern Athletic Director Derek Grog will be leaving his role for a new one in the university. Vice President for Athletic Strategy. Grog told ESPN he will advise on major topics like NIL, revenue sharing, conference realignment. He will remain athletic director until his replacement is hired. So Derek Grog is leaving. He's leaving. He is the athletic director of Northwestern. And he's going to be leaving that role for a new one at Northwestern. Vice President for Athletic Strategy. He will advise on major topics like NIL. Like, maybe he is the one who, I don't know, like, is he like the general manager? And then he's going to be advising on revenue sharing. So yeah, he's going to be like the general manager. And the Northwestern athletic director moving in this new role is going to be the advisor on conference realignment. That's going to be part of his role. Major topics like NIL and revenue sharing. So like a general manager. Right? We've said this. There's the same guy cannot be athletic director and general manager. They're calling it the VP of athletic strategy at Northwestern. So he's going to be the he's going to be the VP for athletic strategy, the general manager, and he's going to be advising on conference realignment. Greg told ESPN that he and the university began discussing role in recent weeks. He will be involved in the search for his replacement, but said that person will manage the department and coaches and staff. Both Greg and his successor report to the university president, Michael Schill. So it's going to be two different jobs. One athletic director is going to be the athletic director at Northwestern is going to be coaches and staff. The other one, the VP for athletic strategy is going to be about money, revenue sharing, allocating that money to the student athletes, and conference realignment. Now, why does Northwestern, why do they need somebody to advise them on conference realignment? Well, because the Big Ten wants to get their ducks in a row. They've been talking internally. Really, it's about conference expansion. When the ACC implodes. So that is very interesting. Very, very interesting. New job type, it's more of a this general manager type of situation. And I think we're going to be seeing that a lot. I don't know, there's no way the athletic director and the general manager, that can't be under the same person. Exactly. Mullen vision. A man cannot serve two masters. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I think we're going to be closing it up. We've been on the air for over 3 hours. A lot of breaking news. More to report. We may come on live later again late tonight to cover all this and more here at Peek Around the Corner. So before you leave, please smash the like button if you've liked our content. Subscribe to our channel and open up your notifications because we could come on later on tonight. Come on again. We might have to. I want to thank everybody for your wondrous donations. Without those, we cannot continue to do these live shows almost every single day. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for the comments in the comment section, in the chat room. And thank you for your wonderful phone calls. This has been College Football's Peek Around the Corner. An epic day in the history of college sports. The Big 12 looking to make a deal with private equity. Making a deal with private equity between 800 million to $1 billion in return for 15 and 20 or between 15 and 20% stake of the conference. And of course, if the deal is being pushed, like you're not just going to get the money, you're going to get all the connections that private equity brings to you. Is the Big 12 going to do it? Probably. Do they have all the presidents on board yet? It doesn't sound like it. And then the other breaking news that the Big 12 looks like they're going to be selling their naming rights to the conference. Holy smokes. The world is changing and we're trying to keep up with it here at Peek Around the Corner. I want to thank you all. Helmer Henderson, seer of seers, prognosticator of prognosticators, which say yea after adding Florida State and Clemson. Will the Big Ten go to 6-year cycle or stay at a 5-year cycle? I don't know what you mean by cycle. Do you mean media rights? That is yet to be determined. That's based on negotiations, the media marketplace. I'm not sure what... Oh, you're talking about scheduling. If you're talking about scheduling... It's a great question, Helmer. I don't have the answer. What are you talking about, global life? What are we talking about here? Keep chopping. Thank you, Helmer Henderson, for your generosity. I do appreciate it. But I just don't have the answer. Don't have even a... Once the Big Ten adds 2 Southeastern Conference schools... Okay, I got to get to more breaking news. I guess we're staying live. Holy smokes. We're staying live. We're staying live. We're staying live. Breaking news. Thank you, Keep Chopping, for keeping your head on a swivel. Thank you, Helmer Henderson. Thank you, Keep Chopping. Conference USA is also deeply exploring a multi-million-dollar name and rights sponsorship. One of the companies under considerations is Globe Life. Possible new league names include Globe Life Conference USA or Globe Life Conference. Holy smokes.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. We just got the news on Conference USA. Again, it's a prisoner dilemma. If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. If you're a Conference USA, you don't do it, someone else is going to get the money, cash infusion advantage over you. Conference USA is going to do this, do a name change. The other G5 conferences are going to have to do it as well. The floor is yours, sir, Immaculate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of was going on in chat. I do believe it was Toast. Someone said that he thought the AAC would do it before the Big 12. And I was like, well, then it would have to be done quietly, and we haven't seen anything about it. But here it is. I mean, if Conference USA is talking about it, with where their value point is at, I have to believe the AAC is talking. Someone's making a deal with them. Probably every single G5 conference is now doing this, like you said.
Now,
so
this is not so much private equity at this point, but I think
like the naming stuff and you know, finding partners to do this.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm sure the AAC will probably come out with their own as well.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to call in real quick because I'm glad you stayed on. I just wanted to point out two other things too, if I may, and then we can get off so people can go into that. But Amanda Kristovich has started her reporting.
Yeah.
And it's getting a bit chippy and partisan. But what come out of this that's very interesting is that both sides in the debating back and forth seem to be talking about the NLRB. And one side thinks that the NLRB should be allowed to adjudicate and figure this out, which they're not mentioning. The NLRB can only affect the private schools. But I think why they're bringing this up is because that's who's holding up realignment right now. In the ACC, you got all these private schools. They need to know what the heck's going to go on from the NLRB. You know, and pushing back on that, you've got both sides now almost debating, if the NLRB should be part of this. So I've been saying that I strongly feel like the NLRB is watching this right now, trying to figure out what they're going to do. And it's almost like these guys right now are signaling to them, from their different sides, but it's part of it. So, if as we talk about ACC realignment and we're like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? These faraway debates that are going on, in my opinion, are directly going to affect that. It's going to directly decide all of a sudden when the pieces come together for an ACC move. Because there's, 8, 9 private schools now that are connected with the ACC. They need to know what's going to happen with the NLRB. So, we got all this other stuff going on, and in a funny kind of way, it kind of acts like smoke and mirrors and keeping your head on the swivel. This is all great stuff to be talking about. It's very pertinent. But what's going on in that room right now in D.C. is extremely important. And Amanda's doing a great job getting the little details out that otherwise we would just not know about. So as we go through this, maybe have a look at that too and see, because I think that there's some interesting stuff coming out of D.C. right now.
Yep. All right. Appreciate it, Immaculate. Great call, Immaculate. Amanda has reported that at 3:15 Eastern Time, there will be a vote to whether to send the bill to the House floor for a vote. We're talking about the House committee will consider a bill saying college athletes can't be employees. Introduced just a few weeks ago, the bill is the first to reach the markup stage. It's an indication of the quiet success of the NCAA's lobbying campaign. Ranking member Bobby Scott, Democrat, Virginia, says the athletic employment bill is partisan. It doesn't address issues like college students facing hunger, homelessness, lifelong injuries. Another opposition of the bill from UCLA quarterback Chase Griffin. 21 minutes ago, okay, here we go. The House is talking about protecting student athletes' Economic Freedom Act. Representative Bob Good, who introduced the bill, is listing all the new freedoms like NIL, Austin payments, transfer eligibility. Being classified as an employee would limit those benefits. I sincerely believe student athletes don't want the consequences. He says athletes wouldn't be able to be normal students if they were employees. Good is also talking about the Joe Biden's NLRB. This is a key to understanding why athlete employment issue has become partisan. Republicans are attacking what they see as an extremely pro-labor Biden administration. Athlete employment status has become part of the debate. Representative Good is now repeating a common NCAA talking point that men's and women's athletic programs don't generate revenue would be eliminated if athletes became employees. Representative Bobby Scott is now speaking against the bill. Only freedom the bill protects is the Republicans' freedom to strip varsity athletes from their rights. He says Congress shouldn't legislate yet. Let the NLRB adjudicate the employment issue. Representative Glenn Thomas, Republican, Pennsylvania, is also in favor of the bill to prohibit athletes from becoming employees. Tim Walberg, Republican, Michigan, says the bill should be passed because it pushes back against NLRB. So this has become a big political partisan issue. Which in some cases is too bad. But anyways, now we're going to close up our live show. Again, if you're new to the channel, if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe. Open up your notifications. There's a chance that we could come on live later tonight. There's a lot of stuff going on. Conference USA, doing a naming rights for the conference. Big 12, doing a naming rights for the conference. I suspect more breaking news in regards to other conferences. We're going to be covering it all here at Peek Around the Corner. So stick with us here. I appreciate you all coming on in. The great chats, the great comments in the chat room, phone calls, and donations. Without those donations, we cannot keep doing this. So I appreciate all of you again. A lot of stuff going on in college football, and we cover it all here at Peek Around the Corner. So until next time, which could be a few hours from now, until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, 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 you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.